Ah, hello again. Welcome to the first ever Cadence live stream and update. As you can probably tell, this is our first live stream. If there's any glitches or errors, please be patient with us. We have absolutely no idea what we're doing. So what are we talking about today? We're talking about Cadence. What is Cadence? Cadence is a game where you can draw shapes to make music. We've been working hard on it for a long time now, and we think it's something pretty cool. And today we've been a bit quiet recently, so we're gonna update what's been going on in the land of Cadence and show you some pretty cool stuff. News that we're talking about. Of course, the biggest news is that we're going to be on Steam Early Access. Holy shit, we're petrified and excited about that, but it's definitely the next big step for the game. We're also going to be talking about the fact that for the last month, I've been in the Swedish countryside as part of an accelerated program called Stugan, and I'm going to I haven't really said much about it, so I'm going to just be giving a bit of an update what that's about and how that's been helping Cadence and how that's kind of revolutionizing what the game's all about. And then I'm actually going to show you those new features in Cadence. In many respects, we've taken some radical new directions, and I think it's really exciting. And then finally, of course, we've started creating a loop a day, and today is no different. At the end of the stream, we're going to create a loop in Cadence so you can actually see what the new editing features are all about. And yeah, that's going to be happening every single day until we're live on Steam Early Access. Okay, so diving right into it, Steam Early Access. So what's going to happen there? So originally we posted an update saying that we'd be going live sort of round about August. We didn't really commit to a time because we know how game development goes. No surprise, we were wrong. It's not going to be August. It's probably going to be the first or second week of September. We have a date in mind, but we don't want to quite say it out loud yet. But so yeah, basically first week of September. It's very soon. There's a lot to do, but we're really excited. We think that we've had a long, hard think about Cadence and what's special about the game, and we think we've got something pretty special up our sleeves for our launch. So, keep up to date. Follow us on Twitter. We'll definitely be sending you lots of reminders as to what's happening there. You can follow along. And then, when we actually go live on Steam Early Access, just please tell everyone it's really important to us to spread the word as far and wide as possible. This is I think it's fair to say this is a very underappreciated niche game, and it's really from you guys helping out that's gonna make this successful. All right, so moving on. I've been at Stugan for a month now. What the hell is Stugan? Well, Stugan, let me try to say, Stugan is the Swedish word for cabin, and it was the original Swedish video game, and it also so happens to be the name of this accelerator program. It's the first year it's been set up. It's basically taking 23 indie developers, putting them up in cabins in the woods in the Swedish countryside for 2 months. And the whole idea is that they get to work on their games, and it's giving them the support and the time and the space and the energy to really focus on their games and do something special. Very luckily, I was one of the first intakes that they accepted, and yeah, we're a month in. I feel incredibly fortunate because so far Stugan has been phenomenal. It's really hard to put it into words just how positive the experience has been so far, but really the main thing about Stugan is allowing one to get perspective. So, we've been kind of scrapping. There was the Kickstarter campaign, which some of you may know of, and that didn't succeed. And for a long time afterwards, it's felt like we've been hanging on by a thread. But, for the last month, all those worries have been sort of cast aside. And, there's there's accommodation provided, there's food provided here, there's lots of other people to sort of bounce ideas off. There's also some wonderful countryside and the lake to kind of go get your, clear your mind and get fresh perspective. And what this means is that we've been really just eating, breathing, and sleeping Cadence, and really getting into what makes Cadence a special experience, and really trying to figure out how we can deliver something special. Okay, that sounds really cheesy, but I think it's, we've spent a long time working on this game, and it's only now that I really feel it's starting to come together at sort of to the level of that vision that I had 2 years ago. And, I'm starting to realize the game that I wanted to make. Of course, Rodain's also helping me. He's back in South Africa. Unfortunately, he's not here with me in Sweden, as much as awesome as it would be to have him. But yeah, so that's Stugan. If you want to know more, I can update you about that in the future. But I think let's get into Cadence and what we've been doing and talk about some of those changes. Let's see, let's get this over here. Alrighty. So for those of you that don't know, Cadence started life as a puzzle game, and we've been working on that element of it for a very long time now, and we think that the puzzles are great, but it's always felt like there's something, there's been that special ingredient that's been missing. Rodain's terribly talented puzzle designer. He of course worked on Desktop Dungeons, and he's been doing a great job with the puzzles in Cadence. So let me just show you a little bit of that to make sure that you're familiar. So the puzzles are very simple, or at least they start out that way. It's all about trying to find loops. So you can see here when it loops, the puzzle is complete, and then you can go on to the next level. And then you have to start filling in the blanks and connecting the pieces yourself. And of course, much later on, things get a lot more complicated. Different nodes come into it, and there ends up being multiple different solutions. Okay. Already you can see evidence of the fact that we've been doing a lot on Cadence, because we've run into a bug right here. So basically what we've been doing is we've kind of thrown out all assumptions and started from square one again, and really asking what would be awesome in Cadence? What is that feeling that we get from it? And that means we're changing a lot of things. We're experimenting with a lot of things. And right now the build is a bit buggy, so I'm just going to restart this. And one of the main things that we've really been paying attention to for the first time that we haven't before is the editor. And there was always this idea with Cadence that you could use it to make your own music, and the editor was kind of always the neglected child of the project. We never really gave it much attention, but now at Stugan we've kind of been focusing on the editor 100%, and we're really excited by how it's shaping up. So once again, this is all very prototypey. This is likely to change. This is likely to be slightly different. There's a lot of new icons here. A lot of them aren't working yet. There'll be a lot of bugs. Bear with me if it happens. But one of the main things was to try and really create a good way of allowing you to create your own tracks. And before, that was this really horrible process where, you had to come in here and you had to move things around, and it wasn't very good. Now it's super simple. You just drag out new nodes, and there we go. Now, and then you can see these are directional lines, so they'll only go one way. So if we want them to go 2 ways, we can just drag over it again. And there we go. And we can do all kinds of really funky things here. Super straightforward, super easy. And then down here, you can change the nodes that are playing. So for instance, if we wanted to bounce it back, we could put a reflector node here, which will send it back in this other direction. And of course, cause the circuit to spaz out. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show you some of the new nodes, and I'm going to show you kind of how we've been creating our loops for LoopADay. And hopefully you'll get the impression of just how easy it is and just how rewarding it is. So let's pick a level here to get started with. Okay. So, okay. A lot of things that aren't quite as smooth as they will be yet, but we're certainly we'll be working on all of that, and hopefully by the time that we release, it's going to be a very slick and smooth process. Also, I should mention a huge thank you to our backers who backed our Noodle Starter. Your contributions have been really helpful in helping us survive and keep our heads above the water. And you guys will be getting Steam keys in the very near future as we start testing out the build. So keep an eye out for that. All right, so to get this working, let's open up the editors. Now, there's kind of two components. The one is the actual nodes themselves, and each node has a different rule. So, for instance, we have, we have these reflector nodes, which bounce pulses back and forth, or you have the sort of relay node, which just kind of sends them onwards. And by themselves, the nodes don't really do much. You have to actually assign sounds to them. Now, this is a component of the editor that we're still very much working on. It's still a very inelegant process, but hopefully by the time we're done, it's going to feel just as smooth and rewarding as actually drawing out new nodes. So there's different editors. The one you can see here is just intervals. So let's go back for a second. We select a node. You can hear that it's changing. Now, what I mean by intervals is that these have actually been selected from a scale. So if you don't know music theory, you can make something that sounds nice by just picking these numbers and playing around with them. And that's a really important part of Cadence, is that we want it to be very approachable to someone who doesn't really know much about music or doesn't have hardcore musical backgrounds. But then the important thing is that as you get deeper into the game, it can keep up with you. And as you expand your knowledge or your ambition, you can start trying more things, doing different things. So for instance, once you get bored of intervals, you can go to a full piano keyboard and actually start learning how scales fit together, start learning how chords fit together. Again, this doesn't quite work right now. We're working on it right at the moment. But then if we go back to this level that we were looking at here, we then have the drum editor. That's what we're going to start off with. So very simple. These are just some samples. And let's make this a snare drum. Going to make this a kick drum. And then let's connect them together. And then right here, we have the basis of a very straightforward, very simple beat. We can make this a bit faster. All right, not bad, but it's pretty plain, pretty vanilla. You can see the reflector nodes bouncing off each other, and it's just basically going kick, snare, kick, snare, kick, snare. Let's make that a little bit more interesting. So let's create maybe a hi-hat or something like that. And let's create a second one. And now I'm going to change one of the nodes, and I'm going to change it from this reflector to a reflector that reflects but also sends pulses onwards. And there we go. Very, very simple, crude beat. Okay, let's turn that hi-hat down a little bit. All right, that's not bad. Let's maybe see if we can embellish this a little bit. So right now it's a pretty vanilla pattern. let's see if we can add in a little bit of spice. So there's another node that we can use, and that's a state node. And what happens is that this only hits every second time it gets a pulse. Okay, you can't hear it now because it's kind of in time with the other beats. Okay, let's maybe take that off there. Let's put it here. Okay, now this node here, it only chimes if it gets 2 pulses at the same time. So we're going to have to open this up again. And you can hear that one little pulse. That's sort of, we changed it, hold on. Okay, so listen out for this sound. You can see how we start to sort of build up a little bit of variation. Okay, so that's a very simple groove laid down. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add a second track. So there's kind of 2 instruments in Cadence at the moment. The one is a synthesizer, and the other one is the drum sampler, which, you know, as you could see, the drums only had 1 sample. The synthesizer has a whole bunch of presets that you can choose from, so it's a bit more versatile at the moment. Now that we have that drum loop laid down, let's try add in a bit more bass and variety. So right now we still have to create a node using this horrible interface. But now that this is here, we can start and create something cool. So what are we going to do? Let's go one. Okay, I want relay nodes. Which relay nodes, if you remember, relay nodes send pulses in all directions. So if we have this, they'll send it in both directions. But in this particular case, I want it going in one direction. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and connect them back to the start. Okay, as you can hear, all those notes are the same. That's pretty boring. Let's try make it a little bit more interesting. I'm just going to be using this scale editor to assign notes. So something like that. What should we choose here? Maybe something like that. And then okay, that's a bit messy, a bit noisy. Let's see if we choose a different preset, if that helps us sound better. Yeah, there we go. That's pretty cool. In this particular case, I think, you know, we've got this drum beat. Let's maybe try get something a bit more driving, a bit more in your face. Yeah, that's something a bit more ethereal. We could pick this up a bit if we wanted, but let's see what else we got. Alright, I think that's pretty cool. I don't like what the notes are doing here, so I'm just going to change the order around a little bit. Alright, I think that's cool. And let's maybe see if we can get a bit pacier. Alright, let's go back to this track. So the drums right now is playing a very simple pattern. There's no variation in it. So let's see if we can maybe just increase that a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to come here and I'm gonna try create some variation with the snare drum, and I'm gonna do it just by using these state nodes. And what they do is they pulse every second time. So what's gonna happen is the circuit's gonna play, and you're gonna get this loop forming, and then every now and again these are gonna make an appearance. So that's a mistake. But what's really great about this is that you can just play around and experiment, and often like very interesting things fall out. So, you know, you can just kind of start connecting stuff randomly, see what happens, see if it explodes or not. Maybe take this a bit slower so you can actually see it happening. Maybe even do that. Okay, you know, sometimes it explodes, but that's part of the fun of Cadence. Eventually, we're kind of thinking that there'll be two ways that you can actually sort of save and share this with people. The one is to export it, actually sort of just export the music as a song or as a composition. And then the other way is to actually create puzzles for other people to solve. So the same way that you can play puzzles in the game, you can hopefully play puzzles created by other people. And we still have a bit of figuring out to do with this, but it will probably be through Steam Workshop or, you know, whatever means and ways and manners that are convenient for you as the player to do. All right, let's crack up the pace. I kind of like that. Let's just add one more thing for some spice and variation. Add one more track. This kind of, so right now the timing is all fixed, so we're actually sort of simulating faster notes by just having this double time. You know, 300 BPM is crazy fast, but because we're playing this double time, it's kind of more like 140 BPM. But in the end, you'll actually be able to change the tracks individually. So, you know, your drums can be different from your synth lines, and that will add a lot more variation. But for now, I'm just gonna select something like this, and I'm just gonna try and add a little bit of texture. Of course, we can also change colors. So let's pick a nice color for this track, and we need to create a node. And then let's just do something very simple. Yeah, I'm not really sort of choosing things too specifically here. I'm just kind of sticking in the same area because there's already a lot of noise. So I'm just kind of choosing a few things to add a little bit of flavor, a little bit of spice. Let's maybe just get, okay, so these two notes are repeating. Let's just. The sounds aren't really working. It's a bit too in your face. So there we go. It's just a little bit of texture, and that shows how you can start building bigger compositions with Cadence. So right now, it's still very much most of the fun and excellence is really in creating loops. You know, this if you want to create full-on hardcore music, there are already applications to do that. And we've kind of one of the things that we've realized by really paying attention to what's special about Cadence is that we're probably never going to be able to compete with, say, Pro Tools or Cubase or Logic or Ableton or one of the many audio applications out there. But I think what we can really do and can do really effectively is creating a fun way to play with music that I don't think has been seen anywhere before. And the hope is that by creating a way to play with music, you're actually being inspired by music. And I can remember a lot of the times when I used those really hardcore applications, they'd present you with this blank screen and it'd be really hard to kind of pick a direction, and you'd kind of poke around for a little bit and then you'd get a bit bored, and then eventually you'd give up and you'd be like, well, I don't know what to do. And really what we're trying to get right with Cadence is to kind of appreciate a little bit how creativity works, and to say, well, we're going to kind of just mix things up a little bit and create a little bit of chaos. And by doing that, it gets things happening. And once things are happening, you can start tweaking them. So like you saw with the drums here, I started off with something, and just by adding new notes, trying out things, started adding some variation. And then the idea is that, you could take this and you can start building on it. If you're a creative musician, you could take that into an application. Or, if you're a gamer, you could export it as a puzzle and have other people playing your composition. That's pretty much all for now. I think this will do it for this LoopADay. It's a little bit rough around the edges, but hopefully you'll see as we start adding more features that things will start getting a bit slicker, a bit more intuitive, and by the time we release, we hope to have something really special that you've never seen before. All right, that's it from me. Thank you very much.